Welcome to Pixel's Pulse, the pulse of true crime in the digital realm. Join us on a gripping journey through the darkest mysteries and enigmatic narratives that send shivers down your spine. From chilling cold cases to the most perplexing criminal investigations, Pixel's Pulse is your gateway to the captivating world of true crime. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on true crime stories and may contain graphic details. Viewer discretion is advised. The information presented is for entertainment and educational purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the creators and do not necessarily reflect the views of the channel. All individuals mentioned are considered innocent until proven guilty. This content is not intended to glorify or condone criminal activities. If you find such content distressing, please exercise caution while watching. In the dimly lit corridors of true crime history, two haunting tales intertwine, uncovering a mystery that spans decades. In the late 1970s, a man named Terry Rasmussen started his reign of terror across the United States. Born in 1943, Rasmussen's early life held hints of the darkness that would unfold. Terry attended high school in Arizona, but he eventually dropped out to join the Navy in 1961. While Terry was in the Navy, he was trained as an electrician and served for 6 years at bases around Okinawa, Japan. In 1968, Rasmussen married once in Hawaii, and a year later he moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where he had 4 children. In 1975, he separated from his wife, and although not much is known about his marriage, it is believed that through 1975 and 1976, his family saw him for the last time. That is when he made his transition into becoming the Chameleon Killer. The Chameleon Killer earned their moniker through a skillful ability to adapt personas, which allowed them to seamlessly blend into diverse environments, from the bustling streets of New York City to the quiet corners of rural America. Operating under various aliases, including Bob Evans, Curtis Kimball, Gordon Jensen, and Larry Vanner. Rasmussen's criminal activities first gained attention in 1985. Arrested for child abandonment in California, he left a string of questions about his past and a daughter whose identity remained unknown. Here's a video from ABC News that explained what happened to the daughter that was abandoned.
At an RV park in Scotts Valley, California.
A guy by the name Gordon Jensen was staying at the Holiday Host RV Park with his daughter, Lisa. She was about 5 years old.
He was living as the kind of fix-it-up guy, handyman guy at this park, and he had a camper on a pickup truck that he was living in with Lisa. She was little, so she was like always running around the campground, playing with other kids, you know, bike riding.
He ends up befriending a couple, Catherine and Richard Decker. The Deckers are there sort of temporarily for a few months. They begin to talk to Gordon Jensen a little bit more, get to know him a bit more, and he starts to sort of confide in him. He says that he's having a really hard time raising Lisa on his own.
The Deckers sensed something was wrong. They heard Lisa crying at night. Her clothes weren't in the best shape.
She looks a little thin. Looks a little dirty.
He tells various stories about what happened to her mother. I think maybe she died of cancer, he said.
Another story was they were in a restaurant, it was robbed, she panicked, ran out in the street and got run over in traffic.
He actually broke down and cried, and he was incredibly convincing about his grief and about him wanting Lisa to have a better life.
And Mrs. Decker told him, "You're so lucky, she's so beautiful and cutie, you know, cutie pie."
And the couple starts thinking, well, we have a daughter who has wanted a little girl for a really long time. Maybe something could happen.
Gordon Jensen eventually presented the idea of them taking Lisa on a trial adoption basis.
And so they take Lisa with them down to Southern California where their daughter lives and have a sort of 2-week trial period.
An attorney basically told them, have him sign here, here, and here, have that notarized, and we'll file it in the court, and then she could be yours. You know what I mean? Your daughter can adopt her.
Once the Deckers take Lisa with them down to Southern California, she starts to show signs that she's been a victim of abuse.
And the Deckers contacted the authorities, and she was interviewed.
She was just an innocent child. She was just an innocent child. It breaks your heart to see a child like that be traumatized by an adult.
And they reach out to try to contact Gordon Jensen back at this RV park, presumably in the hopes that they could get this adoption legalized so that they could keep her away from him. But when they call back to the RV park, he is gone. He's vanished.
Coincidentally, around November 26, 1981, Denise Baudin from Manchester, New Hampshire, was last seen by her family around Thanksgiving. The 23-year-old mother had vanished from her Manchester apartment with her boyfriend, Robert T. Evans, and her 6-month-old infant daughter, who was known as Lisa. To this day, the remains or whereabouts of Denise Baudin has never been uncovered. Her daughter was left in Rasmussen's, a.k.a. Robert Evans's, custody after the disappearance, where he claimed that Lisa was his daughter. After DNA evidence proved that Rasmussen's claims were false, Lisa was placed into protective custody in 1986. When Lisa was questioned by police about whether or not she had other siblings, Lisa attested that she did, but they perished from consuming grass mushrooms while on a camping trip. This further led investigators to believe that there are more victims out there. Within that same year, the bodies of Marlisa's Elizabeth Honeychurch and one of her daughters named Marie E. Vaughan was found in 2 separate barrels at Bear State Park on November 1985. They were discovered by then 11-year-old Jesse Morgan and his friends. Honeychurch, who was born in Connecticut in 1954, was married twice and had a daughter with each husband. Marie E. Vaughan was first born in 1971, then Sarah L. McWaters was born in 1977. Honeychurch was last seen at her mother's house in La Puente, California, around Thanksgiving in 1978. It was there that she introduced her family to her boyfriend, Terry Rasmussen, according to the New Hampshire Department of Justice. Police later determined that the female adult and child, who were unidentified at the time, had died of blunt force trauma to their heads. Police believed she died within the first or second year after the appearance at her mother's house. This makes her 26 or 27 when she died. In the year 2000, 15 years after the first barrel was discovered, Sarah's body was found inside a separate barrel at Bear Brook State Park, along with the body of an unknown child. Sarah is believed to have been 2 to 3 years old at the time she was murdered, according to authorities. Sarah, her half-sister Marie, and their mother were unknown persons until authorities announced their identities at a press conference on June 6, 2019, with the help of Rebecca Health. Rebecca helped to identify Honeychurch and her 2 daughters by connecting with a message board for missing family. In November 2019, Honeychurch and her older daughter, Marie Vaughan, were laid to rest together with a new headstone bearing their names in Allenstown, New Hampshire. Honeychurch's youngest daughter, Sarah, was laid to rest in Connecticut, near her father's family. The remains of a young girl, aged 2 to 4, was found in the second barrel, with Sarah's remains in 2000. To this day, she has yet to be identified. Authorities have referred to her as the middle child because of how her suspected age compares to the other 2 children found in the barrels, but DNA tests confirmed she is not related to Sarah and Marie, nor their mother. In 2016, this child was determined to be Rasmussen's biological daughter. Unfortunately, in the following years, more victims were unearthed. Yoon Jun, a chemist from California, was the first victim authorities were able to tie to Rasmussen. June was in her mid-40s when she introduced her family to her new boyfriend, Larry Vanner, whom authorities later identified as Rasmussen. Jun disappeared from Richmond, California in June 2002, approximately 2 years after Vanner met her family and friends. Renee Rose, who was a close friend to Eun Jun, went to the Contra Costa County Sheriff, where Roxane Gruenheid was a homicide detective at the time. Rose had not heard from Eun for a long time, and every time she attempted to make contact with her, Vanner would give her and Jun's family excuses as to why Jun refused to contact them. While searching Vanner's California home, Gruenheid and a fellow detective located an enormous pile of cat litter in a crawl space. Buried in 6 feet of cat litter, police found a human foot, completely mummified, wearing a flip-flop. Ultimately, the body was identified as Jun, who police determined had died of blunt force trauma to the head. In November 2002, he was arrested for Jun's murder, and in 2003, he was sentenced to prison for 15 years to life after he pled guilty to the crime. Meanwhile, the authorities tried to find the biological mother of the middle child that was found in the second barrel next to Sarah, but she has never been found nor identified. Authorities fear that the mother of the middle child was murdered and placed in an unidentified location. In 1995, another victim was found in a refrigerator by scavengers. The woman was discovered to have had blunt force trauma to the head that compares to Rasmussen's other victims. The unidentified woman was placed in the refrigerator with a pillow, sleeping bag, several blankets, and a few cartons of milk. The milk cartons was a very peculiar brand of milk that was only delivered to a certain area that matched up with where Rasmussen had been at the time. Unfortunately, at this present time, the identity of the woman, as well as many other victims suspected to be from Rasmussen, has remained unsolved. In 2010, Rasmussen died in a California state prison of natural causes while serving time for the murder of his girlfriend. After his death, he was cremated and his ashes were thrown into the sea. Investigators are still diligently working on the many suspected victims of Rasmussen to bring justice and closure to the victims. I pray that all the victims who met an untimely death in the hands of Rasmussen are properly laid to rest and can find peace at this time. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the mysteries of true crime. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more riveting content, and ring that notification bell to stay updated on our latest releases. Remember, stay curious, stay cautious, and until next time,